Marvel Universe has lost its collective minds, and it's up to a ragtag team of street-level heroes to save the day. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Marvel Knights issue number 3 and number 4 to find out for ourselves, shall we? Alrighty then, so if you'll recall, in the previous issue, Daredevil believed he was seeing the ghost of his former love, Karen Page, only to be shocked and surprised that everyone else can see her too. Meaning either that she's not a ghost, or that they're all sharing the very same, very specific delusion. And I mean, really, what are the odds of that? That's a pretty interesting premise, I think we can all agree, so you can imagine my shock and surprise that the next 2 issues actually don't deal with any of that at all. In fact, we actually go back in time and get a little insight into 2 different characters, the first being the Punisher, who I would argue just through his actions and his interactions with other characters we get a pretty good idea of where this dude is coming from, but hey, that's what issue 3 is all about. You see, Frank Castle, while living in the wonderful world of Amnesia, actually has things pretty good. He has a girl who loves him, maybe getting married soon, might be having some kids, but for the life of him, he just can't seem to shake dreams of the life he once had and a mysterious symbol that hangs over his head, and why yes, that symbol does indeed turn out to be the White Punisher skull. This whole who am I existential crisis ends up throwing Officer Castle's life into a total tailspin, exacerbated worse when he comes in contact with Bruce Banner and his bag of names. Looking to quiet his own chaotic mind, Frank pretty much puts his entire career on the line to drive around with Banner and try and find people on his list. And it's right around here a story that has been benched very heavily in science fiction goes right into magic territory. You see, one of the people Officer Frank tries to wrangle is Loki. You can tell it's Loki because he's dressed entirely in green, has a pissy disposition, and because his font is the Asgardian font. It would seem that the strange amnesia effect that has been afflicting everyone in the Marvel Universe right now doesn't work exactly the same on magic characters. Their memories are harder to take away, it would seem. They still don't remember everything, but they're doing slightly better than everyone else. It's Loki who eventually turns them onto the Scarlet Witch, who we see has established herself as some manner of cultist, helping people who are also slowly but surely starting to get their memories back by forcing them into, well, whatever roles they had before they lost their memories. And for the Punisher, you guessed it, it's being thrown into a very violent fight that starts to wake up all of his old tendencies and remind him who he always was. This whole diversion here, and it is most definitely a diversion, gave me a real season 1 True Detective vibe, and it's probably the most I actually enjoyed. Now, when issue 4 begins, we actually start to get some real answers on what might be going on here. You see, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four and King T'Challa the Black Panther are working with the mysterious device that was built in order to make the entire Marvel Universe forget the existence of the Sentry, and by extension its evil counterpart, the Void. Which, you know, is actually a pretty fitting deep cut because the original Sentry series came out under the Marvel Knights banner. Mr. Fantastic fears the device's power, how it could make anyone forget anything, and because of that he hands it over to the Wakandans for safekeeping. Only it gets stolen out from under Black Panther, and because of that King T'Challa loses his memory. He can't even remember his name anymore. He's living under the assumed name John Smith in New York City when we find him. Now that being said, just because the former Black Panther has lost his memory doesn't mean he's lost any fight. Quite the opposite. He's helping out at a soup kitchen, defending kids from crooked cops, and generally just being a do-gooder. Then again, life is often cruel to people who try and help out, and America is even crueler to people in T'Challa's situation. Proud, black, accented, sadly paperless men who dare stand up to a corrupt police force. All of this catches up to T'Challa and he ends up getting brought in for questioning. They're going to throw the book at him when T'Challa ends up meeting Big Ben Donovan. He's an old-timey Luke Cage villain who we actually haven't seen in the comics for a very long time, and wouldn't you know it, he looks exactly like his Netflix counterpart now. At first, our hero and we as the reader think he's a public defender, but no, he's actually working for the cops trying to get T'Challa's signature on a piece of paper that will waive all wrongdoing on the police's side. Begrudgingly, our hero agrees, but in doing so, something gets knocked loose in his mind. Later that night, when he dreams of the Wakandan gods and his duty as the Black Panther, both as a hero and a king. Now, his memories still aren't 100% restored, but he knows what he must do. He fastens himself a brand new Black Panther costume and decides to follow Big Ben Donovan, who in turn leads him directly back to the Kingpin, who we know for a fact is working for Dr. Doom, who is almost certainly using the amnesia machine to make sure everyone forgets. And it's on that note right there the comic comes to a close, everybody. So that was Marvel Knights 20th Anniversary issue number 3 and number 4. And overall, I gotta say, these issues were kind of all over the damn place. They really felt like completely unrelated stories. That's not to say either of them were bad. The Black Panther story in particular had some fun moments, like getting to see a homeless Captain Steve Rogers being helped out at the soup kitchen. But beyond that, we're over halfway into this story now, and I just shake my head and ask the question, wait, what is this about? Who's the main character? Who am I supposed to be following here? What's the emotional through line? And if I'm asking those questions, that means I'm not really having a good time reading the story, which is a real shame. Ultimately, taken together, I'd give these 2 issues a 6 out of 10. I hope this series can rebound. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cape Joel, so you're always up to speed on what I'm doing next. And hey, did you know, outside just making great weekly comic videos, I'm also on several comic book podcasts, some of which are very popular. There's the Weekly Pull, which the shirt I'm wearing right now. That one goes every other Tuesday. Then there's the Elseworlds Exchange over on the Comic Pop channel. That's every Wednesday around 3 to 5, give or take. And then how could I possibly forget the Comic Multiverse, the show hosted by myself and Matt of Fortress of Solitude. That one goes live on this channel every Wednesday at 8, and also SoundCloud and iTunes later on. Be sure to check out and subscribe to those if you haven't already. I assure you, you won't be mistaken.